So Spartacus was clearly a big budget movie. It was a $10 million production. At that time, the most expensive production Hollywood has ever funded. And Stanley Kubrick was not meant to be the original director of the movie, but it was a Hollywood director, experienced Hollywood director called Anthony Mann. The lead actor of Spartacus, the role of Spartacus was played by Kirk Douglas. And Kirk Douglas and Stanley Kubrick first met during the production of Path of Glory, when Kirk Douglas has also played the main character on Dex. And Kirk Douglas was not only the producer, he was not only the lead actor, but also the producer, and he did not get along with the director Anthony Mann, so he kind of fired Anthony Mann, and then he asked Stanley Kubrick whether he could take over the shooting, and Kubrick agreed. And so it was, Spartacus was the only film that Stanley Kubrick later described as the only film over which he himself had not the complete control, artistic control and logistical control. But the film turned out very successful, and Stanley Kubrick at that time was only 20 years old of age, so very young still. Or 26 even? It says.
26?
I think it was 26. And the shooting included, it was a big logistical task. There were scenes to be filmed in Spain with hundreds or even thousands of extra actors playing the Roman army and then the slave army. We find a very nice, colorful photograph over here depicting extra actors playing dead slaves, holding out cards with numbers. And next to this color photograph you find this vertical frame. Stanley Kubrick sits on top of a camera crane and directs the scene. So, he was really trying to direct the dead extras position.
By calling their numbers, right?
By calling the numbers, sure. Yeah.
Number 75 moved to your right.
Are there any specific cases in Spartacus that you could say have like a Stanley Kubrick stamp on them, or is it
Good question. Oh yeah, maybe. Whether
Is there anything in Spartacus that's particularly Kubrick-esque?
Kubrickian.
I think the grand scale of the entire movie.
What?
This is the first time that you see Kubrick working with hundreds and hundreds of actors and kind of orchestrating a film in such a beautiful way. The earlier films, he wasn't using as many cast members. And here we really see him start to develop like this masterpiece kind of theater.
What is it called? What is it?
Rain.
Thank you. Getting older. That's good, thank you.
And then we have clips from Spartacus on a small monitor with headphones here.
And the storyboard is, for me, for touring perspective, if you want to tour this section, is pretty incredible too.
Can we talk a little bit about the storyboard?
storyboard, yeah.
You're autoing it.
And you'll notice a number of storyboards throughout the exhibition. So if you wanted to develop a little more around that, pre-production photos, storyboards, drawings, that would be very easy to do as well.
How come this film was filmed when Dalton Trumbo was on the blacklist?
Yeah.
Kirk Douglas stood up for him at that time. Kirk Douglas took a stand. I think that's what I didn't hear. What was the question?
The question was why was the film made when Dalton Trumbo was on the blacklist?
Didn't Trumbo use a pen name when he wrote it?
Yeah. Trumbo actually was acknowledged for this, though. This was his first one after the blacklist.
Yeah.
And Kirk Douglas
Your voice.
was the one that wanted to have the Jewish actors that they were going to be there.
This movie actually broke the blacklist. He wouldn't put it out unless Dalton Trumbo had his name credited. He had many Hollywood movies before that, but this was the first one in which his name was actually publicly credited, and Kirk Douglas would not release it unless he was publicly credited, so it effectively broke the back.
was credited.
Yes, but there was another movie that was also filmed at the same time by Trumbo. This one just happened to be released 2 months earlier.
What was the other Dalton?
It was another really big movie that is escaping me right now. But it was 2 months later, and he was also credited with that one. This movie just happened to come at the time when it broke the blacklist. But Kirk Douglas very much takes credit for that.
We're going to move into Barry Lyndon next, which is this way. Careful for the part the Oscar submission.
I do.
It's so little.
Don't touch it, don't touch it.
It's taking every piece of my will.
Would you like me to tell something about Barry Lyndon? Yes, okay.
Which film in that else?
That's from 2001.
So is it going to be overweight 2001?
It will, yeah. We still have a few finishing touches. So now you're standing in Barry Lyndon, and there are a lot of really fun objects in this section, including these costumes and this camera. But Jan wants to tell you a little bit about something. So.
Yes, well, the real problem with Barry Lyndon is to get the atmosphere that we know from paintings, the atmosphere of the 18th century onto film. That was very, very difficult because film speed was at that time, in 1973, limited to 100 ASA, and the film lenses had the maximum aperture of f2. So you just couldn't do it. You needed to put fill light in order to get an exposure. Very frustrating for a finicky man like Stanley Kubrick, who wanted to really, really show what painters already have shown. You know, so why should he fall behind? So he was looking for a solution, and he found a lens in a magazine. It was a lens developed by Zeiss for NASA. Mm-hmm. NASA used it for satellite photography, and they didn't care about depth of field because it was always at infinity, so they couldn't care less. You know? And that lens had a speed of 0.7, so that was 2.5 stops faster than the lenses available. Now, so Stanley asked me, and after he read this, call Zeiss and tell them, I mean, could we buy one of those lenses and see what we can do? So I spoke to them, and they said, well, I mean, we have 5 left. We gave the whole batch to NASA because nobody can use these lenses. But there's a problem. You can never use it on a cinema camera because the real element of the lens is only 3.7 millimeters away from the film plane, and there's no way you get a shutter in between, never mind reflex. That's totally out of the question. So I told this to Stanley, and Stanley, it's typical Stanley attitude, he said, well, why don't you tell him, let us have one and let me worry about how to do it. And well, I bought one of those lenses. I think it was about 8,000 marks at that time. So it was absolutely affordable. It was expensive, but affordable. And in the meantime, we talked to Eddie Giulio. He was a brilliant technician in Los Angeles of a company called Cinema Products. And he studied this, and he then said to Stanley, look, there's a huge problem. I mean, even the BNC, which is this camera, which doesn't have a reflex, but as you have to have a side viewfinder, there's no way because the shutter plate is in between, and I would have to basically ruin the camera and make it totally dedicated to this lens in order to do this. And Stanley said, why don't you do that? Just do that. So, and Stanley was successful with this. And this is the lens. Yeah, well, you can't really see it. There's something missing here anyway. I have to talk to Tim about this. This doesn't look right. But it doesn't really matter to detail.
Turn around, you can see.
Tour guides, don't open the lens on your tour, please.
Anyway, the problem then was, while we were successful, and you could really film a person with just this candlelight and get this effect, you had no depth of field. Not even Kubrick can do anything about optical laws. So the result was that when a person, you had to settle for just getting the lips and the eyes sharp. Everything was out of focus. So you have to, the set was done accordingly, and if you look at these pictures, you can see how this works. The candles already are not really sharp, but Marisa's face is okay. Now, if you go nearer, it becomes even a bigger problem. Now, here you see, the candles are totally out of focus. Never mind. You look at Brian O'Neill, and he looks sharp, but he mustn't move. He mustn't move. They must be all sitting still. Yeah, the moment they do this, do it again.
So
Yeah?
that's why the shots are so long. That's why the shots were so long, because he had to take advantage of
Yeah, it was a real problem. And another problem that nobody thinks of are the candles. Because you have to watch that they burn down regularly. Otherwise, in editing, they jump up and down. Oh, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Can I ask one more technical question?
But he was successful.
And
He
we
was
have,
successful. And brilliant. So he was
regarding
very good in pursuing an aim. Yeah.
regarding the lighting with candles, we also have in this vitrine few copies or few candles that were used in the actual
that's right.
shooting. They survived, and they are equipped with 3 wicks.
3 wicks in the
So
candle.
they burn really bright.
Right.
You can,
Can I ask how they did the amputation?
How they did what?
The amputation, when he,
Oh, we had a double.
a double.
It would go a bit far, you know. No. We are not that unreasonable. Unreasonable enough, but not that unreasonable.
Okay,
No.
it's bothering me.
But we had a very funny incident. I remember very, very well. We had to find a man who had an amputated leg. And the first assistant was absolutely happy. So we had one. Stanley here he comes. Stanley looks at him and said, the wrong leg. So anyway, because we had already the shot.
Right.
There we go. Because there had to be the left leg. Because you see him with the left leg down, there's a hole in the bed, obviously. That part is easy. Yeah. Oh, it was a lot of work. Yeah. We did this in Ireland mainly, but also then in the southwest of England, and it was all done on location. We never were in a film studio.
It was so beautiful.
All, and the film was unfortunately very badly received, particularly in the English-speaking world.
And what's your reason, what's your hypothesis?
What do I know? I really can't. It's impossible to outguess the audience. It's absolutely impossible to this day. To this day, most feature films don't break even. You know, but you don't know. And those who make it big cover all the others.
Right.
That's why you have major studios, such big operators, because for an individual to finance a film, it's like you might as well go to the roulette table. You know, it's very, very tricky.
we need to
We gotta keep moving. We're going to move in here to the Dr. Strangelove section, understanding that Lolita chronologically comes first.
Yeah. No, that's starting Dr. Strangelove.
So that monitor contains clips from both Barry Lyndon and Strangelove.
Yeah? No, I was here last week, remember?
All right, so what you see here on this wall, and also this wall is material related to Dr. Strangelove. This item in the middle of the floor is a replica of the war room, and if you walk over to the front side, you can see into it. It lights up. I think one of the key sections in this exhibition that you could stop at would be the photographs by Ouija of the pie sequence at the end of the film.
Which is
Dave,
over
do
here.
you want to elaborate on?
Yeah, this is a series of photographs that you find here on this right side of this wall, and it depicts a shoot that almost took 2 days, and Stanley Kubrick and his prep team, they equipped the actors with these pies, artificial pies, and so the initial idea in the screenplay was that this nightmarish comedy should end with a great grotesque pie fight between the officials, the president, the Russian ambassador, including Dr. Strangelove, the crazy scientist. But upon editing of his movie, Stanley Kubrick found out that this pie fight sequence would spoil the more serious approach that the rest of the film, although it's of course very funny, it's still serious about the, well, dealing with the atomic crisis, and he thought that this ending would have turned it into too much into a grotesque. So it was never edited into the final movie.
2 questions. Does any part of it exist at all on film?
I don't know, frankly.
Okay, and the other one is, I read that it had something to do with the presidential assassination of John F. Kennedy. Was that because that happened at the same time it was supposed to be released, and they thought it was going to be disrespectful to the president?
That's correct.
Is that also something that...
Yeah, we have, I think here we don't have these tickets in the show, but they have been withdrawn from this presentation because we had to eliminate some elements. In the estate we found 2 tickets for the premiere, and the premiere was cancelled because of this incident. Yes, it's correct. Of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Yeah, interesting is of course the collaboration between Stanley Kubrick and the set designer Ken Adam, which was already famous for his production designs for the James Bond movies. And Kubrick and Ken Adam spent long days and had long discussions about the, design of the war room as a central filming location. And you can, if you look at the designs that are mounted on the wall behind the model, you can see that the design changes. That his first concept includes a 2-stage situation, so you have a ground floor and then you have kind of a balcony, tribune situation. And Stanley Kubrick received this initial concept from Ken Adam, and he was happy, but he was also very, very busy with other things going on. And Ken Adam was working out his initial designs, and then a few weeks later, Stanley Kubrick said to him they were going with the car each morning, they were going to the studio together, and then Stanley Kubrick told him, "Oh Ken, in fact you have to rethink the whole war room, because what should I do with the balcony? I mean, I need to put up 50, 60 people up there, and there is no use for them to be in the movie." And then, so he made a new attempt, and he came up with a 1-story solution, including this square and triangle forms. And then over there on the right side is the final design of the war room, including a display of the world map display. And then another storyboard also from the hand of Ken Adam on the right side, depicting the bomb dropping sequence near to the end of the movie.
Next, we're going to move into the Lolita section, followed by Clockwork Orange, and then into The Shining.
Is this supposed to be his chess?
It's his personal chessboard. So Stanley Kubrick really was a dedicated chess player, and we see him also playing on the set of Dr. Strangelove with George C. Scott.
So the material related to Lolita is on these 2 red walls. wearing the red glasses, or she's in the car with the lollipop and the fan. And then on the right, we have transparencies by a photographer named Joe Pierce. We also have production stills and a number of promotional materials from the film.
Around the corner are some of my favorite things. There's 2 letters to Kubrick from the Catholic Church saying, "How dare you make a movie of this evil book?" And there's a letter from Sue Lyon to Kubrick, who played Lolita, 10 years later, saying she's so happy with her new life. She doesn't use the name Sue Lyon anymore. She's happily married in a cottage. It has nothing to do with Hollywood. Her life is great.
Where are they?
Around the corner.
So she felt the movie kind of wrecked her life?
No, actually, it was a very cordial letter saying she thinks of him very kindly.
But she didn't stay.
Yeah, it wasn't, I don't think she had a passion.
That was enough.
I don't know if we're all going to fit into this room. This is where all the Clockwork Orange material is housed. It's where the only kind of controversial material that you may have to avoid in the exhibition. We have one of the costumes outside along with the entrance text, and this poster, which is an original prop from the movie. And then many people that can fit in here.
This is, you gotta do this. It's visual.
It depends on your group.
Why would you?